Yeah, and I would agree with your statement regarding Wegmans and HEB. I mean, these are organizations that I think each are going through now, bringing on board their fourth generation leader. I know that specifically for Wegmans, Danny Wegman himself is stepping down. His daughter is taking over his role. She's fairly young. She's been in the business, I think, forever. So she's certainly quite learned very well at the hands of her father. And Wegmans is an incredible brand. They were one of the first to actually incorporate, I think it's in Pittsfield, where they have one of their stores. This is a little bit of Wegman's story. So they built a restaurant across the road where they actually test out their recipes and their ready-made food before it's put in their store. And I visited this place. So this is Rochester. Rochester used to be, in the grand scheme of things, the home of Xerox, Bosch & Lomb, Kodak. That's really no longer the case, right? So I think Wegmans is still one of the very few largest employers in the area. But because of that, there was this French gentleman. I can't remember his name. I don't even know if he's still alive. But what he used to do, he used to import fine wines. And this is not even related to our topic, but I just got to share this story with the audience. And he bought an old warehouse in Rochester, and it was stocked with 20,000 bottles of wine that he had imported over 20 to 30 years that he was maintaining. And so the Wegmans family is like, I think we should get into the business of having standalone locations where we can sell alcohol and wine. So they went in, they hired this gentleman. He was fully retired, and they bought his stock of wine. We got to see how they were inventorying this wine and so on. So it was kind of cool to kind of watch the family and the executives at Wegmans really to start to think outside of the box of just grocery and being able to diversify their product mix and try to start something else. But what I found really more interesting than this story that I'm sharing with the people listening is all the years that I've had the opportunity to interact with Wegmans or HEB or any small regional retailer, and these guys aren't small, that are really playing the infinite game. They're very customer centric. They think
correct.
They think first, not like, hey, I think if we bought this computer, things will be faster. I think if we did this operationally, this will be better. They start first and foremost, how would our consumers react? Does this meet their needs? And that's very interesting. Now, who's out there, not in the grocery space, maybe the technology space, who's playing the infinite game that is just knocking it out of the park?
Well, I certainly think you have to look at Apple. You have to look at Microsoft. Both of those companies absolutely are. You have to look at someone like AmerisourceBergen. You have to look at McKesson Pharmaceutical. They're absolutely doing a great job. And then you have someone who thinks they're doing a great job or wants to give the impression they're giving a great job, and that would be Tesla. So Tesla wants to be the company to convince you they're playing the infinite game, but they're really not. I think your audience members, when they listen to this, will consciously and subconsciously, as they think of companies on their own, say, are they an infinite company, an infinite player, or are they a finite player? And there are those companies that their name rises to the surface, and you look at them and say, absolutely, they're in this thing for the customer, and they have a track record of success, and they always seem to make the right moves. But then there are those companies that kind of come out of nowhere, and they get the press. They get an awful lot of press, and it gives the impression that they're an infinite player, that they're going to be around for the long haul. But history is just full of companies that weren't able to do that. If you look at technology, you look at Dell, for example. Dell was looked at as being the absolute leader in all things related to computers and technology. And Michael Dell's famous for saying that Steve Jobs should sell Apple and give the money back to the shareholders. Within 2 years, just a few years of Michael Dell making that comment, Apple overtook Dell in terms of market share. So I think Apple has absolutely learned along the way how they need to keep their focus in order to play the infinite game. And there are all kinds of other companies out there that try and give the appearance of being an infinite player, but they're really not. And I would have to put Tesla at the top of the list.
Yeah, as I love the fact you used Dell as an example, because at one time I was a major Dell fan. This is a classic example where you get enamored with selling servers because there's better margin, you're playing with bigger businesses, and you stop looking at your consumer business and thinking like your consumers and what they want to buy. We've seen this with Research in Motion. And I think Tesla's not that far behind. I think he was exceedingly rude last week on one of his earnings calls with the analysts. Now he's talking about building this candy moat to compete against Warren Buffett. This is just ridiculous. Now, can you, if you're stuck in playing the finite game and you're, a medium-sized grocery retailer, can you turn the tide and become better and start playing the infinite game?